metronome going. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream here on this afternoon. We're going to continue our journey that we're going on all weekend here through book one of Suzuki. Okay, and I appreciate you guys being here. If you have any questions, put them down in the chat. I love answering questions, especially about this. You know, I wholeheartedly believe in YouTube as a supplement, you know, which is why I make all these videos as a supplement for us. You know, you're with your teacher or you're with, you know, your school group or whatever for only a certain amount of time each week, and what do you do the other 6 days? And I hope that that's what these videos do for you, is that in that in-between time when you need some reminders about what to practice, when you need some help with practicing and learning, that this is a great resource for you out there, and I appreciate you guys watching. All right, so here we go with Rhody. Great place to kick off our next live stream here. With Rhody, we introduce some new stuff with the bow, okay? And this is really important that we start learning to use a different part of the bow, all right? And start learning to do some different stuff with the bow. Make sure you guys, make sure you can hear me out there. Yeah, if you can't hear me, if there's anything wrong with the audio, then just let me know. With Rhody, we start introducing the long and short bows. All right, so long, short, short, long, long. And I have my bow with the tape here again. Now, up until here, we've been really focused on this part of the bow. Yes, playing down here in the lower half, playing between the tapes. Of course, that's really, really, really important. And it's really, really important for getting the weight into the bow, all right? With Rhody, this is where I introduce, and I have a video already on the channel, but we're sitting here talking about how to practice it, and you can ask questions. We're going to introduce here with Rhody playing in this middle third of the bow. Yes, from the balance point. Oh, my balance point's a little bit off because I have the string vision on this bow. Okay, but this is where the actual balance point is. From the balance point to the upper third here. So when we say long and short bows, slow to the middle. All right, this is really important. And so as we're starting to learn to use more bow, this slow to the middle business here really helps teach us phrasing. And here's the other bonus for you guys here that's not in the other videos, that I have to actually have some words to Rhody. I need to publish those that help us learn phrasing. Yes, because the whole reason we're learning this slow to the middle business at the ends of the phrases is so that we start to learn what phrasing is. Like what exactly is that? It's this nice thing that happens at the end. You know, a phrase is an important musical structure for all of us to understand, right? So that we don't run through the ends of the phrases. Yes, and that's a really, really important concept to start introducing as soon as possible, right? And we talked a little bit about it in French folk song earlier, right? Because we have the dreaded the dreaded up bow rip there. Okay, same thing here. We have the potential to, oh, that's awful. That's really, really bad. We don't want to do that, right? Don't do that. Slow to the middle, right? So, and if you want to do this with me, long, you know, where I have the bow taped up, I have the balance point taped up. Of course, I have my grip tape here. Balance point, the exact middle, and then in the upper third here, right? And I usually just tape this up for students according to what sounds right. And this piano part, so in the second line of Roadie, this is where I'm going to really make, and if you have an older edition, which I have here, it doesn't have the dynamics marks the way that it gets taught by most teachers now. I think the newer edition actually has it in there, where it's mezzo forte at the beginning of 5 and piano or mezzo piano at the beginning of 7. And what we're going to do is we're going to play measure 7 and 8 from here up, all right? All in the upper half. And so what we're learning is that we get louder sounds down here, yes, and softer sounds up here. This is just an incredibly important concept to learn to manage our bow, to get different dynamics, different kinds of sounds from the bow. So when we start measure 7, so we do the slow to the middle in this case, actually at the end of 6. So we go. Slow to the middle. And 7 and 8 are just like that, just a miniature version of what we're doing in the rest of the piece. And then we float back. Okay, to phrase at the end. And this is a really, really important thing here in Roadie. Now, of course, in the first 4, if I haven't really solidified my bow hold, it's going to be really hard to play in a different part of the bow and maintain a good bow hold. So I have to make sure that this bow hand is just really, really solid, okay? That I'm not, I'm not going to be prone to doing something weird or strange as I go here to the upper part of the bow, okay? So I have to make sure that I have a great bow hold. Before starting all this playing in a different part of the bow, all right? Really, really important. Other things that we talk about in Roadie, if you need some extra challenges, is sometimes we start introducing extensions, okay? Where we start playing Roadie in different modes. This is it's just, I don't know, it's just a fun piece to do that with if the students are ready. Or maybe we come back to it, maybe we do the next few pieces, maybe once we start getting into the G string stuff with Long, Long Ago and Allegro and everything, then maybe we come back to Roadie. But it's a great piece to learn to, so instead of playing the regular first finger, I extend my first finger back. Essentially, I'm putting Roadie into harmonic minor, right? And I can feel that. Makes it feel like it's from another part of the world. I can also get rid of the third finger and just play it in a straight up minor mode. I know this is like harmonic minor, but when I put a second finger here, but then still do the B natural here, maybe somebody out there can tell me what mode that is. I said straight up minor. Actually, if it was regular, if it was good old D minor, I'd actually be putting this first finger back here on the A string. Sounds a little bit more characteristic. Using the B naturals in the B flat along with the F natural, and it makes me think of Russian Sailor's Dance for some reason. I don't know, maybe somebody can tell me why. I'm not sure why that makes me think of Russian Sailor's Dance, but it does. It's a great piece. I love Russian Sailor's Dance. It's a great piece for cellists. What other modes can we play with Roadie there? Those are the big ones, is extending this first finger back on the D and the A string, okay, to help teach extensions. All right, and then also the second finger, but some other fun stuff that you can do with Roadie there, along with the dynamic changes and the bow changes. Okay, we're gonna move on for now. Remember, if you have questions, put them up in the chat. Oh, come little children. All right, and notice as we're going along in all of these pieces, there's more music to be made. There's more contrast. There's more things to do, things to think about, which is wonderful. Okay, all right, so here we go. Oh, come little children. And the first thing, we're going to go in order here, right from the beginning of the piece. And again, there's more videos about this on the channel, but we're going to talk about the pickup here. What is a pickup note? A pickup note is the start of the piece. It's that little extra note that is not a full measure, right? We call it a pickup because, you know, the piece is in 2/4, so that means each measure has 2 beats, all right? And then the 4 on the bottom means that the quarter note gets the beat. But notice in "O Come Little Children" that it starts with just an 8th note, right? And the whole melody does that. And there's lots of ways. One is just, just rote learning to play along with the recording until you can feel this pickup beat and come in the right way. Another way is, of course, just to understand how the pickup beat or that 8th note functions in the measure. So we're coming in on the and of 2. I still like using 1 and 2 and. It's my favorite counting system. All right. So if I'm counting off this way, I'm thinking 1 and 2 and 1, right? 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and 1. Okay. Count singing. Great way to understand rhythms and understand this pickup beat. Some teachers use tas and ts. All right. So we're going ta, ta, ti, ta, ti, ti, ta. Or maybe I say all the t's. Ti, 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 ta, right? All right, the pickup beat is just the last T, the last 8th note, the and of 2, and then we start there at the beginning, okay? And notice that at the very end of the piece, right, is an incomplete measure, okay? So if we're supposed to have 2 beats or 4 8th notes in each measure, the last measure just has 3 there. In the measure, give me 1 second here. Let's see what I can do to improve this here. Done. All right. Okay. All right. So, "Oh Come Little Children," and all right, that's the pickup beat. So that's one of the big teaching points here in this piece. All right. The other one, let's see, we also have tunnel fingers from earlier in the piece. Yes, so we have, just like earlier in the book. In Lightly Row, we had 3rd finger staying down. And here in "Oh Come Little Children," just like in Lightly Row, what? This 3rd finger, and you have the line there that means same thing what it means in Lightly Row. All right, we're supposed to just know by now that it means keep the 3rd finger down for that entire time where you see the line. And the this idea of tunnel fingers, again, if you weren't there earlier, it's more efficient, all right? It's just a better, more efficient way of playing. Once I've found the F sharp and I'm in tune, I can leave that finger down, because every time I move, okay, especially if I'm early on in my learning, early on in my development here as a cellist, there's always a potential to squeeze or mess up my fingers, or, you know, twist things around, all right? And so by leaving the finger down, there's less potential to move it and do something, you know, get it out of tune or get it out of shape. Teaching point here in O Come Little Children Remember is the big crescendo, right? This is the first time in the Suzuki book here that we've been asked to make a crescendo for so long, right? So the crescendo starts on the 2/8 notes, the pick up to measure 10 here in the third line, and it goes all the way 1, 2, 3, 4 measures, and then the climax is at the beginning of 14. And so my job as a musician is to make this gradual increase. Like if I could put my crescendo on a graph, then there would be this straight line going up like this, right? I wouldn't see a wavy line. I wouldn't see like getting loud, getting soft, getting loud, getting soft, right? That I would see this continuous build, right, on my way up to the forte where it's marked in the music. And how do I do that? I have to use all three of the tools in my toolbox, right? So how do we change the volume here with the bow? We get closer to the fingerboard to get softer. We get closer to the bridge, right? Remember our three primary colors here. We get closer to the bridge to get louder. We use more bow, we get more sound. We use less bow, we get less sound. We use more arm weight, we get more sound. We use less arm weight, we get less sound. I call these the primary colors because they're black and white. They don't change. Yes, they are, you know, they are one or the other. They only go each direction, right? Softer, louder, softer, louder. There's no gray area there, okay? Louder, softer. More bow equals louder, less bow equals softer. More arm weight equals louder, less arm weight equals softer. That's it. There's no confusing that. There's no overlap there, okay? So, if you want to really make a gradual crescendo and get from softer to louder over the course of 4 whole measures, then we want to use all 3 of the tools in our toolbox. Yes? So let's try that now. So where do we end up? Let's see. We have mezzo forte. Probably I got a little too loud too soon. Yes, let's try that again to pick up to 9. So I want to, one thought is to start here in the middle. And doing the decrescendo there at the end of the piece, I just do everything in reverse, right? Less bow, less arm weight, okay, and moving toward the fingerboard. I think the one that we use the least, right, is the contact point one. We tend to use arm weight the most. We overuse that one. We use more bow, less bow. You know, sometimes I think we start learning to use more bow or less bow. But definitely the one that we have to start thinking more about is this contact point, because it really requires a different focus. It requires us to really be proactive, all right, and be really, really active here with our right hand, moving this bow back and forth. And it seems kind of strange because you think, oh, I'm going to slide, I'm going to get a bad sound. as I'm changing the bow, I'm gradually moving down there to that louder part of the string. And I think probably maybe the other reason our hand resists going there is because it takes more strength from us to do it, right? There's a lot more tension, right? The reason, remember, we pluck. When we're playing pizzicato, we play up here. We never pluck down here. We don't get a good sound plucking down here because there's so much tension right next to the bridge. But all that tension is what creates the forte and the fortissimos, right, at the top of the crescendo. And our hand just resists it, right? It just doesn't want to go there. We've got to teach it to go there and make a great sound, okay? So 3 different things actually going on here in "O Come Little Children" with the pickup note, tunnel fingers, making the long gradual crescendo using all the tools in our toolbox, but lots of great opportunity to make some great music. And there's a repeat. Yes, there's a repeat there. We haven't had a repeat, yes, in Suzuki Book 1 yet. Okay, moving on to Meisong. And I also just recently uploaded some practice tools for this one, which I will, of course, go over with you now. And that is, this is the first time we play a big arpeggio, right? And this is where we really start getting into some finger pattern work here with Meisong. And finger patterns are good all the time. All right, they just work. Got a video in the works all about finger patterns and why they work and why they're so very, very important. Okay, but one of the first things you want to do with Meisong to help get it in tune is to play it on different strings. So I would suggest here, I think when it comes to finger patterns, we're talking about a very small part of the fingerboard, I think it helps to play a smaller part of the piece as well, all right? So, hearing it in all those different ranges, and it's one of my summer to-dos this summer is to do a little homework about why hearing different ranges of pitches helps us, right? Why hearing it in different ranges, it does something for our sense of intonation. There's a great app called In Tune, and I've noticed that when I'm playing In Tune, I have to do a little review of that on the channel here. When I'm doing In Tune or what I'm doing with my students, that some ranges, okay, are easier to hear than others, right? Because the game is continually getting harder and harder and harder, right? The interval's getting closer and closer together that you have to hear this pitch difference. But sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's in the middle. And it's just, it almost doesn't make logical sense. It's just this kind of random, like certain intervals are just easier, certain ranges are just easier to hear. And I think that is one of the key reasons why finger patterns work, is because we don't always know, we're not aware of which pitch ranges resonate with us, right? Some of them are easier to hear, some of them are easy to understand. Maybe you hear the notes of the C string better, maybe you hear the notes of the G string better, maybe you're able to get A string notes easier in tune. That's why playing it in all these different places, it ensures that we're going to hear it in a range where we understand it, right? Hopefully we start to learn to understand the whole cello and everything and all the different ranges. But until we get there, all right, the road to getting there is to play in these different ranges, because some of them are going to be easier to understand than others. And it's different for everybody. You know, we're all just built differently, thank goodness. And, you know, you're going to hear some range better than another. Anyway, so it's my to-do list to have a little bit better understanding. But anyway, this is one of the first things is the intonation, is getting this better in tune. Also, we have dynamics here. Again, we have actually 4 different dynamic levels here in Meisong. So, and it's kind of the same pattern, same format as the other pieces. In this middle line, we have lots of contrast. And you guessed it, it's going to be just like Roadie, where we're going to go tum bum more bow bum bum bum, slow to the middle. Then the piano section for the second half of the second line is going to be all in the upper half of the bow. All right, and how do I get to the lower half of the forte? Because I can't, if I do slow to the middle, actually at the end of the phrase just before a forte, I'm not going to be in the right part of the bow for the forte. So let's talk about floating the bow. So I go all in the upper half. I got to get back to there, right, without making any sound or making very little sound. And so I'm really thinking float. This is the only time where I'm going to get kind of a floaty sound. Or maybe I just let that ring and I literally am going in the air above the string so that I can be floating. And down here, during the polka retard, I'm just using more bow, okay, to slow down and then making that, having enough bow to make the last note really, really long. Use the finger pad. The bowing stuff is very much like Roadie. Okay, so I won't go over that again. But for sure in May song, all right, getting in tune with the ringing tone and the arpeggio. Okay, this is so very, very important. Use the finger patterns. Use the finger patterns. And you can use the finger patterns on the middle line. Here's what I would do. As soon as I do that, I feel like that fourth finger on the C string is just so much more in tune. I just automatically just know better where that F natural is. I'm going to do it again. The fingerboard, I got to make a video about this. The fingerboard just feels different after you do it. Okay, I have a great analogy. I'm going to say the analogy for the video. You have to wait for it. Okay, all right. But I do have something very, very special planned here. Okay, Allegro. Allegro, again, you know, as we're moving through the book here, in these early pieces here in book one, every piece offers something new to learn, okay? Eventually, we're going to kind of get to a kind of a rotation here in the Suzuki books, because Suzuki loves to go make a great sound, learn something new, make a great sound, learn something new, which I think is that's why one of the reasons I love the Suzuki books. I think that's a great way to lay out the music for students. But here, from Twinkle up to Perpetual Motion, there's a lot of both, and there's a whole lot of learn something new. And Allegro, because everything is new, right? You're at the beginning. Allegro offers our first chance in a piece to have two really contrasting sections. We've done some contrast with the dynamics, right? We've had loud and soft. We did that in May song. We did it in Roadie, all right? Maybe you added some dynamics in French folk song. In Allegro, though, we're not, in the Dolce section, and this is the big teaching point here, or one of them in Allegro, is making a contrast with the articulation. Making the contrast over here in the right hand that doesn't really have anything to do with tempo or volume. It's we're gonna contrast the piece by changing the character of the piece, right? Not gonna change the tempo, not gonna change the dynamics. Meaning, so the opening, and here comes the stop bows again. Notice I got to the third line, complete change, right? So before I get to the third line, I'm actually back to this, right? Stop, 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 pop, 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 bum. All right, all the way through. Dolce means sweetly, okay? So I want legato, I want it to flow. I want to use a little bit more bow. I want to start to learn to loosen up this wrist here. And I'm also doing what? A decrescendo and slowing down at the same time at the end of line 3. That's new. Okay, so what am I doing there? How about I'm using, because if I'm slowing down, I should be maybe using more bow, but if I'm getting softer, I should be using less bow, right? So I really got to use my contact point and my arm weight, because I inevitably got to use more bow because the notes are slowing down. And what's that little symbol there at the end? I wish I could draw on my iPad screen. Can show you there. That fermata, right? That little symbol there in the music, right? At the end of line 3. That big, what some teachers call the bird's eye, right? It's a big circle there with the dot. And what does that symbol mean? It means to hold the note. If you were in an ensemble watching a conductor, you would hold that until the conductor told you to go on. Yes? Since you're the soloist, it's your piece. You are the conductor of yourself, right? With your accompanist. And you get to decide how long to hold it. And this is where we start to learn a little bit more leadership, maybe, so you can lead your accompanist, a little bit more musicianship, because it's really all about feel. Like, what feels right? Slowing down. Pause. Putting a gap in there. Let's see if we can hold it for too long. See, that was too long, right? It's like you can kind of feel like something should have happened a little sooner. Let's go too quick. See, no gap at all. And it's like something should have been added there, right? There should be a little space there. All right, what I would caution you against is counting a specific number of counts, because I get this question from students. So it should be 2 counts, or it should be 3 counts, or I should count to no. I think it's much more important to learn to do it organically, because that's the way you're going to want to perform it later on. Okay, and that comes with trial and error, and it's messy. And people don't like messy, and that's unfortunate, because that's just the best way to learn something like this. If you start trying to put specific parameters on something that wasn't meant to have parameters like that, this is meant to be felt, all right? It's meant to be musical expression. Now, of course, there are plenty of other things that we should have concrete parameters on, right? You should hold your fingers a certain way. They should be in a certain shape. Your bow hold has to go, fingers have to go here, all right? But not everything in music, not everything in cello playing is that way. Yes, there are certain things like holding a fermata that it would be terrible for your progress to try to hold it for X number of beats. I mean, I guess if you're very, very young, if we're talking about if you're a parent watching this and you're trying to help your 5-year-old, maybe, it's still a maybe, it's still a question mark, right? That you might count a certain number, but even then, I would caution against it. Okay, all right. So, dolce, sweetly, legato, smooth bow changes there. Don't forget your stop bows, because at this point in our cello development, we're still developing this. Remember, we talked about this early on in Twinkles here in our little journey today, about how important this finger action is to our tone development. Okay, and I just published a video here on the channel about this. This right here is paramount. Okay, all right. This, got to loosen this up, but this finger action doesn't necessarily come, okay, when this starts to loosen up. So it's also important in Allegro because we want the contrast. Yeah, like we said at the very beginning of this. The stop-stop bows contrast with the dolce stuff, yes, and we want that. So we want to make the short notes, and I think that's what's meant by the line dot, right? We have a tenuto mark, which means to hold things out and make them legato, but then we have a dot that means to make them staccato. And I always interpret that combo articulation as the stop-stop bow, right? I'm using the bow, I'm using quite a bit of bow, right? I'm not using a staccato amount of bow would be just on either side of the tape, right? That would be a short bow, but I'm using some bow here, but I'm stopping it really hard. That's how I interpret the line dot combination together, yeah? Another new marking here in Allegro is the a tempo. That means original tempo, right? Go back to the first tempo because we've slowed down at the end of measure 12, yes? Okay. Awesome. Seeing if there's some comments here. Questions. All right. I'm going to go on. Perpetual motion. Oh man, so much to say here. Okay. Things that I haven't said already in all the mini videos. I say many, not that many, but certainly more than the other pieces from Suzuki. Because perpetual motion, because the independence of this hand is so paramount. As I mentioned in actually the video I just released today, that regardless of where students are with their facility, with their cello playing, with their note reading, we will probably start with perpetual motion or something like it. Because the independence of the hand, so the doubles variation, okay, is what's so important about perpetual motion. And that's what we're working towards, right? That's ultimate goal, and why we've been having this goal of 105 as we move through. So probably as we start our ascent here to the peak, here, like going to Mount Everest, probably somewhere around, May song, I might start doing the 16th notes. And we were doing some of this back, and this is why it's important to start it actually with Twinkle, is way back in Twinkle, we were going... So in a perfect scenario, you've gotten that Twinkle variation up to tempo, okay? You're playing variation E up to tempo at 105, and you're very comfortable with this loose wrist and your bow hold is great. In a perfect world. Hopefully we've already accomplished that with Twinkle. And so hopefully, actually, maybe around May song, what I love to see happen is that we can start cutting this in half. And I'm going to get to the actual perpetual motion, but remember, the doubles is what's so hard. That's the mountain that we have to cross. That's the beast that we have to slay here, is doing these doubles at 105. Hopefully at some point soon, as we're approaching perpetual motion, we can actually start doing, instead of doing 2 beats, and I call this the cutting it in half method. That's 2 beats worth, right? We want to start doing 1 beat. Good, and for extra practice and for intonation, do it on the G and C. The reason we wait to go to the G and C, we don't want to have any bad habits, okay? We don't want to be getting our fingers in any weird shapes, okay? If it looks like the G and C is going to be too hard to press down, then maybe we wait on that. Oops. Okay, don't forget the arpeggio. So we're doing just 1 beat worth. Now, to get to the variation that is like perpetual motion, we're trying to get to just half a beat, right? Just 2 16th notes on each note of the scale. transfer to this is our final goal, right? And so we also want to remind our left hand of its speed. Remember that my left hand is only moving that tempo. All right. Now, if it starts to get messy, you know, this is always the mystery, all right, is why my change, right, the change is still the same speed, so why does it get harder to do 2 instead of 4, right? Because I'm still having to change the note at the same speed. All right, think about that for a second. Let's go back to 1 beat. The 2 beats and the 1 beat, you know, the cutting it in half, when I do more of them, I have more chance to think, I have more time to think about the change. That's why it helps, right? When I have less time to think about the change, I have less time to set it up, and I have less time to be proactive, and that's why I miss the coordination. So at this point in my playing, in my career, I can start to think about what does coordinated feel like, and I can just kind of go straight there. All right, but if you don't know what that feels like yet, then you got to do all these variations. One thing I do talk about on the channel is using rhythms. And then let's reverse that. Don't forget the arpeggio, okay? And the reason that works is that I end up practicing the change fast, yes? Good. Now, through all of that, I'm teaching this action. I'm forcing this hand to loosen up, right? Because that's what I have to, this has to be loose to play fast, yes? Now, as we discussed earlier, as I discussed in the video that came out today, the stop stuff, where my fingers, okay, what I'm really pushing with students recently is that when I'm playing the theme, okay, it is so very important that I play it this way. See how my fingers are flexing when I stop the bow? Just as important as going fast, of doing all the 16th notes, doing all the repeated stuff, the cutting it in half. This finger action, I have to, and actually one way I would practice this that I haven't talked about yet on the channel is actually isolating this motion with the wrist and the fingers. Exaggerating it. Now, if you're early on in cello, you're a beginner, you're getting to perpetual motion at the same time, this can be challenging, especially if you don't have a private teacher. But if I'm focused on the stop sound, stop, that is going to be paramount to helping me, okay, get this finger action correctly, is to make sure that I'm always doing the stop bows when I am playing the theme and making it my goal at 105. Just like that. And maybe while I'm playing the theme at 105, I'm getting the 16th notes. I'm like playing them at like 90. You know, get to that doubles variation as soon as you can. And of course, once you're done with D major, very important that you do it in G major. G major recorded on the channel, so maybe we'll end with that today. All right, I appreciate you guys being here. Let's play through the whole theme here, the whole theme and the doubles here in G major at 105. I'm gonna leave the metronome on here because this is our goal. Yes, here we go. Maybe I'll even do it in C major as well. C major. That was fun. Ready? And... That's a workout. All right, I can feel it in my hand. All right, so thank you guys for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with 2 more live streams. We're halfway through the book. We're going to do the other half tomorrow in the morning and tomorrow afternoon. I will see you guys then.